The serene beauty of Pahalgam, a jewel of Kashmir, was shattered on May 5, 2025. Terrorists struck a convoy of buses carrying pilgrims and tourists. The attack left 26 innocent people dead, including 25 Indians and one Nepali citizen. Among the victims were young Indian Navy Lieutenant Vinay Narwal and his bride-to-be on their way to celebrate their upcoming wedding. The nation mourned the loss of innocent lives. The attack sent shockwaves through India, sparking outrage and demands for justice. The idyllic image of Pahalgam was forever scarred, a grim reminder of the ever-present threat of terrorism. The Pahalgam attack was not an isolated incident. It was a stark reminder of the persistent threat posed by terrorism emanating from across the border. India had long endured the pain of cross-border terrorism. The government vowed a swift and decisive response. The nation's resolve was tested, its patience wearing thin. The time for words was over, the need for action was paramount. In the early hours of May 7, 2025, India launched Operation Sindoor. The operation was a carefully planned and executed counter-terrorism strike. Its objective was clear: to dismantle the infrastructure of terror that had taken root across the border. The operation was named Sindoor, a poignant tribute to the victims of the Pahalgam attack, particularly the young couple whose wedding celebrations were tragically cut short. Sindoor, a symbol of matrimony and new beginnings, took on a new meaning, a symbol of India's resolute response to terrorism. The operation commenced under the cover of darkness. Between 1:05 a.m. and 1:30 a.m., Indian Air Force jets and ground-based missile launchers roared into action. Their targets, 9 terrorist facilities located in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. These facilities served as training camps, logistical hubs and operational centers for terrorist organizations, including Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba. The strikes were precise and targeted, aiming to cripple the operational capabilities of these groups. The selection of targets for Operation Sindoor was strategic and deliberate. Intelligence agencies had meticulously mapped out the network of terrorist infrastructure. The facilities targeted were not random. They were the nerve centers of terror operations. Among the targets was a mosque in Bahawalpur, suspected of being used as a meeting place for high-ranking terrorist leaders. Other targets included training camps in Kotli and Muzaffarabad, where recruits were indoctrinated and trained in the art of violence. The operation employed a mix of air and land-based assets. Indian Air Force fighter jets, including Sukhoi 30 MKIs and Mirage 2000s, carried out precision airstrikes. Simultaneously, BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles were launched from ground-based platforms. The operation demonstrated the Indian military's ability to conduct coordinated strikes using a combination of advanced weaponry. The strikes were intended to send a clear message: India would not tolerate terrorism and would act decisively to protect its citizens. Colonel Sofia Qureshi, a highly decorated officer in the Indian Army, played a key role in the planning and execution of Operation Sindoor. This was not an act of aggression, she asserted, but a necessary response to a cowardly act of terrorism. Colonel Qureshi emphasized the meticulous care taken to avoid civilian casualties. Our targets were chosen with utmost precision, she explained, ensuring that only terrorist infrastructure was hit. Her words reflected the professionalism and restraint exercised by the Indian Armed Forces. Wing Commander Vyomika Singh, an ace pilot in the Indian Air Force, led one of the strike missions. We were prepared for any eventuality, she recalled, her voice filled with determination. Our objective was clear and we executed it with precision. Wing Commander Singh's testimony highlighted the bravery and skill of the Indian pilots who participated in the operation. They risked their lives to ensure the safety and security of their nation. Section 5. The Pakistani Connection. India's decision to launch Operation Sindoor was not taken lightly. It came after a thorough investigation into the Pahalgam attack revealed irrefutable evidence of Pakistani involvement. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri presented this evidence to the international community. He highlighted the links between the terrorists and Pakistan-based groups, particularly Jaish-e-Mohammed, which had claimed responsibility for the attack. The evidence was clear. The The terrorists had received training support and safe haven within Pakistan. The Indian embassy in Washington, D.C. released a dossier detailing Pakistan's complicity in the Pahalgam attack. The dossier included intercepts of conversations between the terrorists and their handlers in Pakistan, as well as financial transactions that traced back to Pakistan-based entities. The evidence presented by India left little doubt that the Pahalgam attack was planned and executed with the support of elements within Pakistan. The attack was not just an attack on India, but an assault on peace and stability in the entire region. Section 6. Retaliation and repercussions. Pakistan's response to Operation Sindoor was swift and furious. Pakistan denied any involvement in the Pahalgam attack, calling India's accusations baseless. However, the evidence presented by India painted a different picture. Pakistan vowed to retaliate against India's act of aggression. Cross-border shelling intensified, resulting in casualties on both sides. The situation remained tense, with fears of further escalation. Pakistan claimed that Indian airstrikes had resulted in civilian casualties. However, India maintained that its strikes were highly targeted and that all necessary precautions were taken to avoid collateral damage. International observers urged both sides to exercise restraint and de-escalate the situation. The spectre of a wider conflict loomed large, threatening to plunge the region into chaos. Section 7. The world reacts. The international community reacted to Operation Sindoor with a mixture of concern and caution. The United States, while acknowledging India's right to self-defense, called for restraint from both sides. The United Nations urged India and Pakistan to engage in dialogue and resolve their differences peacefully. China, a close ally of Pakistan, expressed concern over the escalation of tensions and called for a peaceful resolution. Russia, another key player in the region, called for de-escalation and a return to dialogue. The United Kingdom echoed these sentiments, urging both India and Pakistan to avoid further actions that could inflame the situation. The international community recognized the volatile nature of the India-Pakistan relationship and the potential for a relatively minor incident to spiral out of control. Section 8. Economic and social tremors. The impact of Operation Sindoor was felt beyond the military sphere. The incident sent shockwaves through the economies of both India and Pakistan. The Indian rupee fell against the US dollar, reflecting investor nervousness about the potential for a prolonged conflict. Pakistan's stock market also experienced volatility, with some sectors benefiting from the increased military spending, while others suffered from the uncertainty. The social impact of the operation was equally significant. In India, there was a surge of patriotism and support for the government's actions. However, there were also concerns about the potential for increased tensions with Pakistan and the impact on cross-border relations. In Pakistan, the incident fueled anti-India sentiment, with protests erupting in major cities. The incident served as a stark reminder of the deep-seated mistrust and animosity that continues to plague the India-Pakistan relationship. Section 9. A new paradigm in counter-terrorism. Operation Sindoor marked a significant shift in India's counter-terrorism strategy. It demonstrated India's willingness to take decisive action against terrorism, even if it meant crossing borders. The operation sent a clear message to Pakistan and other state sponsors of terrorism. India would no longer tolerate the use of terrorism as an instrument of state policy. It also highlighted India's growing military capabilities and its resolve to defend its interests. The operation was not without its risks. It brought India and Pakistan closer to the brink of war than they had been in decades. However, it also demonstrated India's willingness to take calculated risks to protect its national security. The operation represented a new era in India's approach to counter-terrorism, one characterized by proactiveness and a willingness to use all means necessary to defeat this menace. The message was clear. India would not hesitate to act decisively and forcefully to safeguard its sovereignty and protect its citizens from the scourge of